Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a SPORE DRUID Paladin multi-class build guide in Baldur's Gate 3. So this was a request, and I'm aware it's not the most powerful build in the game, but it's still very good because the SPORE DRUID brings a lot and adds some damage riders that we can add on top of our smites. So we're going to be starting with the Paladin. This is how we can get our heavy armor proficiency as well as the ability to use martial weapons. Now, as for the subclass, I think Oath of Vengeance is just the best choice here. The Inquisitor's Might is really nice to add damage riders of Radiant onto our attacks. However, you can go with the Oath of Ancients to get a little bit extra healing if you want to keep your undead alive longer. As for our stats, I think it's best to go as high as we can with our wisdom. So 16 and 16 here works pretty well, and then getting our being able to take our constitution up to 14, dexterity 12. You can go with something like this, although we don't need our charisma as high, and our strength isn't going to be as important since we can use Shillelagh to be able to use wisdom as our attack rolls instead of strength. So something like this can work, but if you want to drop your charisma down a little bit further, you can bump up your strength. Because charisma is only going to be able to give us it's not going to be able to give us some things that we want from the other parts of this build. So charisma is only going to be used on our spells that we get from the Paladin, which there's not a whole lot. So we're going to go with that there. And charisma is also used if you're the face of the party, so that is an important stat for us too. But as for our leveling guide, I'll be taking you through Paladin here, level 2. Now, we can just take 2 levels of Paladin and go 10 levels of SPORE Druid. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to show 5 levels of Paladin and 7 levels of SPORE Druid, but you can cut it off here after we get the Divine Smite. You just won't get your extra attack, and you'd have to focus more on spell casting. So, as for our fighting style, defense is a very solid one. You can go dueling if we're going to be using a shield, or a great weapon fight if you want to use a two-handed weapon, but I think it's actually best to go dueling because we want to have a high armor class to keep the SPORE Druid's temporary health. So +1 armor class makes a whole lot of sense for this. As for our selected skills, I think it's best to go with the smites. You're not going to want to use these smites too often since they do use a bonus action, but command is another nice one. It will scale off charisma, so it might not be the most likely to hit, but we'll go with those there for our ability, or for our skills at level 2. And again, I'm going to go to level 5 with this. Now, Vote of Enmity will allow us to get advantage on attack rolls against the enemy. You can apply this to yourself and get advantage on attacks for 10 turns, which is absolutely crazy. And as for the spells that we're going to take for next level, I think Bless is a good one if you don't already have it. Or Divine Favor, bonus action, additional radiant damage. It does require concentration, so it may not be the most optimal for some people. At level 4, we get ourselves a feat. So with this, I think it's actually best to add to our wisdom. As silly as it is, we're not even a druid yet, but it's better to have a higher wisdom for our spells at that level. However, we can go with like a Warcaster to get Shocking Grasp as a reaction and advantage on Constitution saving throws. Alert for +5 initiative works great as well, but I'm going to take up the wisdom because once we spec into the druid, we'll be wanting that. Now, we get our extra attack at this level, and we get our level 2 spells, and we also get our Hold Person and Misty Step, so bonus action and level 2 spell there. Now, Hold Person is incredibly useful. As for our next level spell, I think Branding Smite's not a bad one to have. It does use a bonus action, but can be very useful whenever you're in Act 2. Aid is really good, however, have someone at your camp. Once you have all your undead summoned, you can have someone at camp join your party briefly, upcast Aid, and then all your zombies are going to have a ton of health, and then you can unassign them from the party. So that's a nice way around it. We can also take Magic Weapon for the bonus to attack and damage rolls. Now here is where we could get our Aura Protection for the +2 to saving throws, but I think it's actually best to add in the Druid now. So Shillelagh or Shillelagh, I get someone call me out on my pronunciation of this every time, but both are kind of right. Thorn Whip is the other cantrip that we want to have. These are Druid exclusives. And as for our spells at level 1, I think Create Water is actually a very useful one to have, so we're going to take that. Healing Word is a nice bonus action heal that you can get someone picked. If someone went down, you can use this to pick them back up, so that's a really nice one to have. Long Strider for increased movement speed is also really nice, but you can also have someone at camp apply this to everyone. I also really like Thunderwave for the pushback, because this can actually just end some encounters by pushing people off of a cliff. Ice Knife is not a bad damage source. It gives an icy surface too, so we can go with that. And Fog Cloud is another one that's a decent crowd control option. So we'll go with that for our spells. You can also take Speak with Animals, but there's a ton of Speak with Animals potions in the game, so you don't really need it. Now we're going to take the Circle of Spores here. This gives us our Halo of Spores, Unleash a Cloud of Necrotic Spores upon a target, and use a reaction. And then also Symbiotic Entity, gaining 8 temporary health points to deal an additional 1 to 6 necrotic damage while you have them. And cast Halo Spores will deal double damage, and we also get the Bone Chill as a bonus, or a cantrip. Now as for our next leveled spell, Entangle can be an okay crowd control option. We kind of already got what we want from the Circle of Spores, so let's continue on there to our next level. And then we also get some pretty good spells. We already have Hold Person from Charisma, but if you want to scale off of your Wisdom, you can take it here. And Spike Growth is another really good crowd control option, so we'll take that there. Yes, we do have it from Charisma, but it's better to have it off of our Wisdom because it's going to have a higher chance of connecting with them. So Flaming Spear is another option if you want to have a concentration on a summon, but I'm currently using a permanent Flame Blade, so you can get this without even having to use the spell. I got a video on how to do that, so you can check out my channel or leave a comment if you want that. Now, for our next cantrip, Produce Flame, not bad. Guidance, not bad, one of those two. As for our next leveled spell, Moonbeam is not bad. You can move it around at your next turn. And Gust of Wind is okay too if you want to push back, but we also have Thunder Wave for the pushback. So now we get another feat. And this is a nice choice since we can go with, like if we want to have our Warcaster or Spell Sniper. But it's actually, I think, best to go with Alert or Ability Improvement. And I'm going to go with the Ability Improvement to take our Wisdom up to 20. Just the higher the Wisdom, the better that we have a chance of connecting with our attacks. And we also get some really nice attacks at level 5 of the Spore Druid. So we get our extra Wild Strike attack. We're not going to be in Wild Shape form often, but Call Lightning and Plant Growth are two incredible spells that we can get. Plant Growth, I want to remind you, does not require concentration. It lasts for 10 turns and quarters movement speed, so extremely useful. So we'll go with that at level 5. And at level 6, we get ourselves the Owlbear form and our Fungal Infestation. So this is the big focus of this build. We get our zombies here, and they're very good. So at the next level here, we can take Sleet Storm. And at our final level of Druid, this is where we get some extremely useful spells. So we get our level 4 spells, and that's where we get some awesome things like Woodland Being and Minor Elementals. Now, if we went with 10 levels of the Druid, we would get Major Elemental as well, and I think that's probably the best version of this build. But even still, this is extremely strong, and we can also take off something for Wall of Fire. And if you want Ice Storm, we can take off Ice Knife there. The nice thing is we do have a lot of spell slots since the Paladin is a half caster, so we do get our level 5 spell slots too. So lots of choices there for what we can do, but what's nice about this build is we get 2 attacks and we get a lot of the benefits of the Druid as well. So I did debate on doing 10 levels of Druid, but I didn't want some people call me out and say that isn't a true Paladin build. You have to have them split down the middle. So I went with this split down the middle because this allows us to get our smites and allows us to do our symbiotic entities. So what's cool about this is not only the character's eyes, but now we get our temporary health points equal to, it takes your Druid level times it by 4, and that's how many temporary health you get. It's pretty nice. At level 10, we would have got 40 temporary health, but 28 is still good because we have a very high armor class, like an extremely high armor class. So that's going to actually last a lot longer since we have resistance, which gives us a 1d4 bonus to our saving throws, and Blade Ward, which is going to half physical damage, giving us a very high chance of survival. And, I mean, not just survival, but keeping our symbiotic entity form. So that includes the Helm of Baldur, Armor of Persistence, and Vase of Shoes, and the Ring of Protection to give us a high armor class of 28. I'm also using the Viconia's Walking Fortress because this gives us advantage on saving throws against spells, and spell attack rolls have disadvantage. Straight up surviving spells and physical damage. This allows us to keep in our symbiotic entity form for a longer period of time. I also have the Helldusk Gauntlets on because it gives us +1 to spell attack rolls and spell save DC, alongside additional fire damage. So as you can see, we got a Flame Blade that'll do 15 to 50 damage. So that's a nice amount of damage, and that's coming from our symbiotic entity form. But on top of all that, we can also go with our Inquisitor's Might. So this will give us even further damage on our attack, so a +2 to Radiant. And then also we can go with Divine Favor, and the nice thing about this is that gives us another damage rider, so that's upward to 56 damage. And that's before we even get into any of our smites. So we lost the Inquisitor's Might because it does only last a certain amount of time, but yeah, you saw it there, up to 56 damage. Now, for our summons, I recommend going with the Minor Elemental, or the Ice methods here, because that gives us 2 summons that can benefit from Create Water. Now, we get 3 level 4 spells, so that's pretty solid. and they will get taken up by our summons here. But the nice thing about the Dryad here is they get the ability, so they can cast Spike Growth for us. They also give us resistance to poison damage, and also give us they give us the freedom of movement, so we don't get slowed down by difficult terrain. On top of that, they also get Spike Growth, so we don't have to hold our concentration on it. They get it themselves. Plus, they get Fallen Lover, which gives us another summon. So we get our Woodwoad here. So we got a nice little crew of summons. That's not even talking about the anime dead that we get, as well as a fungal infestation. There's no corpses nearby, so I can't use the fungal infestation right yet, but this allows you to get a bunch of zombies in, and then you can return to camp at any time and get someone as a dedicated cleric at level 12 to cast aid on everyone, as well as Hero's Feast, which will give your summons a ton of health alongside all of the other summons that you get alongside this. Now, typically we want to go into combat and we're going to want to use like hold person. We can't cast on a team, but when we're in our symbiotic entity form, we do get a ton of extra damage, so I want to pop that back on there, and then we can also go with our Hunter's Mark and apply that to someone. So we got Hunter's Mark on there, and that gives us a little bit extra damage, although this does require concentration too, so we lost our previous concentration. But Divine Smite and Upcast Divine Smite gives us even more damage. Up to level 4, we don't get a benefit at level 5, but at level 4, that's 20 to 90 damage, so that's a pretty good amount of damage. And you're going to see here that we can hit for pretty high amounts of damage. That was one shot. So we took Will out in one hit. Pretty powerful. So yeah, Will just died there. He failed the saving throw. I guess I won't be able to use that there. But yeah, what's sick about this build is we can get a ton of damage in. So I use the Flame Blade, but you can really use any type of weapon that you want for this build because we have proficiencies in pretty much everything. So even if you wanted to use like the Morning Frost, and then take our Shillelagh here and apply it there, that can give us a little bit further damage. So it also use Wisdom for our attack rolls, so then we can just literally go in and use Divine Smite once again. So quite powerful. I'm missing Divine Smite. Where is it? There it is. We don't have that upcast anymore, but yeah, we can go ahead with that there, and that'll give us a bit of cold damage as well. So if you want to use that with Shillelagh, pretty powerful. The Morning Frost is a really nice weapon, but again, we got the option to use really whatever weapon you want to use. So if you want to use the Life-Stealing Sword, you can go ahead with that. Halson just fell down, and then we'll just hit him with another Smite. So yeah, very powerful. You got the temporary health points there, you got the extra necrotic damage. In a pinch, you also have Wild Shape if you want to go that route, so you can use Wild Shape. We can't reanimate Will, that sucks. But let's see, can we do a undead ghoul, flying ghoul? No, it won't let us do it on a teammate. But yeah, the purpose of this build is to get in Smite, and then you also have things like if we do this, it might end up aggroing everyone. We also have utility spells like Thunderwave there, which can knock people back. We got Plant Growth, which can just cause a lot of pain for people because they'll get stuck in the Plant Growth, and the Plant Growth caught fire there. And then you also have Spike Growth, so that can be another crowd control that'll damage people. On top of that, we have our summons, we got Smites, we got Hunter's Mark, we got Command. We got a whole bunch of stuff here that's pretty powerful that you can just continue to spam your Smites, basically. And they're all going to benefit from that extra necrotic damage from our symbiotic entity form. In a pinch, you also get Call Lightning, so you can use Call Lightning if you want, and then you can continually call it without using your spell slot. So if you get desperate, you can just continue to use your Lightning there, which is pretty nice to have in a pinch. So you got spells, we got damage, we got cantrips, we got it all with this build. It's very powerful. I just burned through all my spell slots, but yeah, we were able to take everyone out relatively easily there. So yeah, this Spore Druid mixed with Paladin is pretty powerful. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this build. If you have any recommendations for future builds, also leave in the comments. I really enjoy doing any of these kind of requests. So thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all in the next video.